Commission meeting of August 27th.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I call to order the Lake Mills Plan Commission meeting of August 27, 2024. Before we proceed with roll call, everyone, we do have a new member, Mari Heimstreet. Mari Heimstreet has worked as an appraiser for more than 30 years. In 1995, she started her own business, Heimstreet Appraisal Company. In her appraisal practice, Mari has routinely dealt with zoning issues. She has sponsored and coached Lake Mills Rec League Soccer and has been a Lake Mills Meals on Wheels volunteer. Her educational background includes University of Wisconsin-Madison and appraisal coursework at Madison College. We welcome Mari to the Plan Commission.
Thank you.
And now we can proceed with roll call.
Mr. Holman?
Here.
Mr. Coots?
Here.
Ms. Lazaris?
Here.
Ms. Curler?
Here.
Ms. Heimstreet? Here. Dr. Mason?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't even touch it.
Our next item is election of, item number 3, election of vice chair. City Code 27.8 regarding the Plan Commission allows for the optional election of a vice chairman by the Plan Commission members. And Ryan Grady is traveling and not available right now. He is our current vice chairman, and if he is willing to continue, then we would gladly take that up. Does anyone have anything they want to forward on this matter?
Ms. Lazaris, I would like to nominate Ryan Grady to serve another year as the vice chair of the Plan Commission.
All right. And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Are there any further nominations? In that case, nominations are closed, and we'll take up a roll call vote for electing Ryan Grady as vice chairman.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Heimstreet?
Aye.
Dr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. Item number 4, correction and/or acceptance of the meeting minutes of May 28, 2024.
I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
Mr. Coots will second.
All right, been moved by Mr. Holman and seconded by Mr. Coots to approve the minutes of May 28th. Is there any discussion on the matter? In that case, we'll proceed with roll call vote.
Ms. Lazaris?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Heimstreet?
Aye.
Dr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. The next item is item number 5, questions and public comment. The public may address the commission at this time regarding items on the agenda unless the item is the subject of a public hearing. If your comments pertain to a public hearing, please hold your comments until the hearing. We do have 3 public hearings this evening. Item number 6, rezoning request by Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay to rezone 805 Linden Street from RD Rural Development to R14 Single Family Residential. Item number 8, rezoning request by Shawn Topel to rezone 1341 Topel Street from RD Rural Development and R312 Multifamily to R14 Single Family Residential. And item number 10, conditional use request by Corey and Cindy Stillman for a permanent outdoor sales and display in the B2 Neighborhood Business District at 968 Mulberry Street. If you have comments about the concept reviews after these public hearings, I will not be entertaining that at this time. During those discussions, we may suspend the rules to hear those comments during those reviews. However, they are not public hearings. I would like to proceed with the public hearings as scheduled, and then we would go that way for any potential comments for the concept reviews. Public comment may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk for the meeting. The state's open meeting law discourages action by the commission on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments limited to 3 minutes. State your name and address. When starting comments, also fill out the sign-in sheet at the lectern. For people online, please follow the Zoom link or the phone number listed on the Plan Commission agenda. Are there public comments at this time? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Neil Shade. I live at 911 Pope Street. Regarding 12 and 13, the concepts, I don't have a comment on it, but I have a request that when you guys are discussing that tonight or listening to the presentations, can you talk a little bit about how that's going to impact our infrastructure? In other words, our wastewater treatment, our water, and our electrical? Because I know they're large developments, and I know we were somewhat wavering on having to build new facilities. So I'd like to hear something about that. And secondly, I may not be here. That doesn't mean I'm not going to watch later on, but I'd like to hear some discussion on that.
All right, thank you for commenting on that. Is there anyone else who wants to comment at this time? In that case, then we'll move on to item number 6, public hearing, application for zoning amendment from Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay from rural development RD to single-family residential R14 at 805 Linden Street, parcel number 246071312230006. Before we commence with public comment, then I'm going to call on Mr. Evenson to give an overview of the request and also your recommendations, sir, please.
Sure. Good evening. The first one you guys get here tonight is a pretty straightforward rezone request. This property was recently annexed in to the city from the town of Lake Mills. And as most of you guys are aware, the default zoning designation is RD. That's what our zoning code has it get defaulted to the city, and then we go through the rezone process for the proper zoning designation. And it is staff's recommendation to go to the R14 zoning, and it meets all the minimum requirements. It's compliant. It's consistent with our land use map. So there's really kind of a straightforward rezone request here.
All right, very well. Does anyone wish to speak on this rezoning request by Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay? Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this rezoning request? Would anyone like to speak on the rezoning request by Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed, and we go to number 7, discussion recommendation zoning amendment request by Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay from rural development RD to single-family residential R14 at 805 Linden Street, parcel number 246071312230006. Plan Commissioners, you do have the ordinance number 1268 that has been prepared for the City Council. And this is on amending the City of Lake Mills Ordinance 66044A, official zoning map, City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel number 246071312230006. Owners Jacob Arndt and Gayal Oglesbay, 805 Linden Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. The request again is contained in this ordinance is to rezone the property from rural development RD to single-family residential R14. And we are being asked to make a recommendation for or against the prepared ordinance for rezoning. Is there any discussion? Would anyone care to make a motion concerning this prepared ordinance?
I'll move adoption of ordinance 1268, which is the amendment of zoning at 805 Linden Street from rural development to single-family residential.
Mr. Coots will second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Curler and seconded by Mr. Coots to recommend approval of, recommend for adoption by the City Council the ordinance 1268 for the rezoning of 805 Linden Street. Is there any further discussion? In that case, we'll proceed with roll call vote.
Ms. Curler,
Aye.
Ms. Heimstreet,
Aye.
Dr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Homan,
Aye.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. The next item is item number 8. Public hearing, application for zoning amendment by Shawn Topel from rural development RD to multifamily resident and multifamily residential R312 to single-family residential R14 at 1341 Topel Street, consisting of 4.402 acres, parcel number 2460713231400. Before we commence with public comment, then I would call on Mr. Evenson again to provide his overview of this request and your recommendation.
Sure. So this is a similar request. It's a rezone. However, it's got a few more moving parts to it. If you guys looked at the certified survey map, what's happening here is Shawn is acquiring some property to the north of his existing property from his brother. And Shawn's property itself actually is still zoned RD itself from when it was annexed in years ago and never got properly designated to the zoning district that it should have been. And then the property that he's acquiring is actually our 312 multifamily part of Trent's property over there. And so they had to create a new CSM for him to purchase this property. So there's actually two different zoning districts on this single parcel that we got to clean up. So what we're proposing is to create or to rezone that whole parcel to the R14, and then we can go ahead and approve the CSM once the rezone is completed.
All right, thank you. The public hearing is open. Does anyone wish to comment on this requested rezoning by Shawn Topel? Does anyone have anything they want to say regarding this requested rezoning? Are there any comments regarding this requested rezoning from RD Rural Development and our 312 to R14 at 1341 Topel Street? Are there any comments regarding this? Okay. In that case, I'll close the public hearing and we go to item number 9, discussion recommendations, zoning amendment request from Shawn Topel from rural development RD and multifamily residential R312 to single-family residential R14 at 1341 Topel Street, consisting of 4.402 acres, parcel number 2460713231400. Planning Commissioners, you do have a prepared ordinance 1269 for the City Council, amending the City of Lake Mills Ordinance 66044A official zoning map, City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel number 2460713231400. Owner Shawn R. Topel, 1341 Topel Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. It is to rezone the subject property from rural development RD and multifamily residential R312 to single-family residential R14. Are there any discussion? Ms. Gerler.
I have a question for Mr. Stevenson, just to make sure I'm clear about this. So there are currently two separate parcels with two separate zonings.
Ms. Curler, could you please turn your microphone?
Sorry. So there's two separate properties with two separate zoning designations, and so this would rezone both of them to single-family residential. And would our action tonight actually combine the two lots, or the CSM would combine the two lots?
The final CSM will be when Drake Daly signs that CSM, that CSM becomes permanent, but we really can't sign a CSM until it's zoned properly. It'd be kind of creating a parcel that's non-compliant, so we're just going to rezone the parts that are within the CSM, not the whole property to the west that's existing R312, the Topel property, Trent's property.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right, just the part that he's purchasing that's on the CSM.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further comments or questions concerning this proposed ordinance 1269? Would anyone care to make a motion concerning this proposed ordinance? The Plan Commission would be either recommending or not recommending the adoption of this ordinance for rezoning.
Mr. Holman will make a recommendation to adopt the proposal as presented.
Mr. Coots will second.
Mr. Holman has moved and Mr. Coots has seconded to recommend in favor of ordinance 1269, amending the property at 1341 Topel Street from RD, rural development, and multifamily residential R312 to single-family residential R14. Is there any further discussion? Okay. In that case, then I'll call for a roll call vote.
Ms. Heimstreet?
Aye.
Dr. Mason?
Aye.
Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. Our next item is item number 10, public hearing, application for conditional use permit from Corey and Cindy Stillman, Neighborhood Business District B2 for permanent outdoor sales display at 968 Mulberry Street, parcel number 246071312420077. Before commencing with public comment, I'd like to call on Mr. Evenson for the overview of this, the request, and also your recommendation.
Sure. So this one was brought to our attention that it is in a B2 district and was having some outside sales and service going on. And so I approached the owners and said, we got to get into a conditional use approval or get it applied for if we're going to continue using the property in that way. So really I don't know if anybody visited this property. There's a couple of conditions for outdoor sales and service, distances from residential neighborhoods and screening, but being that this thing's on a corner location, most of this property is already compliant for our requirements for screening. The property to what I'll call the east and the southeast has some really established screening, natural vegetation screening there up against that residential properties. So, and then obviously the ones across the street are far enough away. They're past the 50-foot mark that they wouldn't require screening. So this property really is set up as is without having to make any major modifications. However, the one thing that I've talked to the owner, and he is here today if you guys have any questions, but about getting some designations on the pavement for parking, where the sales and service areas are going to be located, and if you guys had any, obviously some conditions about how much sales and service could be outside, or if you would require any additional screening or anything like that would be on you guys, I guess. But my recommendation for sure would be to, for approval and to have the property owner provide us a site plan showing where the parking and the circulation and the sales and service is going to take place on the property outside.
All right, thank you. We are in public hearing on this proposed conditional use. Would anyone like to comment on this proposed conditional use?
Neil Shade, 911 Pope Street. We got a couple things to add. I do think that Corey and Cindy are good business owners, and that this business is necessary and is helpful for Lake Mills. However, I disagree with the conditional use. I know that Troy indicated that they believe that things are in compliance over there at that property as far as screening goes. I definitely disagree with that. I want to give you a couple perspectives on my opposition. The first is from a business perspective. I have a couple businesses in Lake Mills, and I carefully researched those such that I could operate them successfully. They have all the necessary permits, licenses, insurance, documentation, and all applicable ordinances and laws that pertain to them are being followed, and they have been followed from the very beginning. My most prominent business in Lake Mills is investment property in the form of residential rentals on Pope Street, which is just adjacent to this business. The assessor from the city values my estate portfolio for real estate at more than $3 million. I pay more than $50,000 in property taxes. I have a substantial business interest in the Pope Street neighborhood. Recall I said two perspectives. The second is a personal perspective. I live at 911 Pope Street in the neighborhood. I have a responsibility to 35 tenants who are also my neighbors. All of us enter the neighborhood by driving past this business. It's congested with vehicles that are both employee-owned as well as customers parked in the street, Prairie Avenue. Often there's trailers being loaded and unloaded. It's dangerous. Visually, your senses are assaulted by a field of pallets, crates, lawn equipment, all in various stages of disrepair, and now recently added 2 3-yard trash hoppers. You want to look away, but you can't. How could this be allowed within our city, a city that is aware of the situation and has been aware of the situation since it opened? We have the ordinances to prevent all this, but they are not being enforced. In summary, I want you to imagine your drive home and how you might feel if the entrance to your neighborhood had this business. Please compel the business to conform to existing ordinances before granting any further conditional permits. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shady. Yes, certainly, yeah.
My name is Nikki Engler. Do I have to tell you all these things?
Yeah,
Okay.
name and address for the record.
207 Crestview Lane in Lake Mills. I just wanted to say that the gray small engine repair has been awesome to have in the community. I think it's really great that it is there instead of having the abandoned or nothing or who knows what it was like it was before. So it is really nice that it is here, and I love seeing so much activity because that does show a small, thriving, independently run mom and pop sort of a business, which I think is what everybody in a small community like Lake Mills actually wants. So instead of being adversaries for a small business, I think it's a great thing to come alongside them and encourage them and allow them to work through this growth phase or whatever it is right now instead of trampling on them. And what an awesome opportunity as well. I have a teenage boy who is a mechanic at heart, and to be able to see a small business like Grace Engine thriving and working hard, and a husband and wife team doing it together is pretty awesome and encouraging for all of our teens in our community as well. So I just want to say I agree, and I would love to see them continue to have growth at whatever we can do to support them as a community.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to comment? Yes, please. Come up to the, I know you have to come up here. No one can hear you from back there.
Hi, I'm Corey. I just had a quick little statement I just wanted to write here. If people aren't aware of what we do or what we're up to, and I guess we purchased the building in February 21. It's a mixed-use commercial building. The upstairs has a living quarters that we rent out, and on the lower level, we operate Grace Small Engine. This business has been extremely well received by the community. As we've continued to operate, we have just continued to grow exponentially. After the first couple of years of just doing service and repair, we took on the Aaron's, Gravely, and Echo brands. Just a couple weeks ago, we brought on the entire line of Toro due to many customer requests. This has brought in a major customer base, not just from Lake Mills, but also in the towns of Deerfield, Cambridge, Marshall, Waterloo, Jefferson, Fort Atkinson, Johnson Creek, Ixonia, Watertown, and even all the way to Oconomowoc, Neosho, and Waukesha County. Aaron's, Gravely, Echo, and Toro are all known desirable brands in the market that filled a major gap for many people in our surrounding areas. In addition, we were able to secure parts for most brands while also being a dealer for Briggs & Stratton and Kawasaki engines. We continue to have lots of customers pop in for tire changes and blade sharpenings, part sales, and we were able to help these people with these needs. We service almost all brands of outdoor power equipment, and this has also allowed us to have a loyal customer base. At the same time, we have developed a reputation treating people as we'd want to be treated and finding creative solutions to problems to benefit all. Many communities around us have had their own version of Grace Small Engine. Many of these businesses have closed or are on the downturn. We are on the building and growing side of this equation. Prior to 2021, Lake Mills has never had a power center in town. Without sounding arrogant, we have become the largest outdoor power center in Jefferson County, outside of the big box chains around us. We feel very blessed for this growth, and we are also thankful that Lake Mills has a destination store that almost everybody has a need for. This was also completed, I'd want to remind everyone, using a vacant building in a high-traffic location that has not seen consistent business for many years prior to us being there. With all this growth, we've exceeded our indoor ability to continue to do all the things we need to do for our customers. We have been storing machines outside on the north and east sides of the building. We have been using the backyard as much as possible, which does have some natural barriers such as trees and bushes. We've been primarily storing machines that run and move on their own in the back, and the ones that do not move in our parking lot for the ease of getting in the shop. Unfortunately, broken, non-running machines do not look the greatest stored outside. Many people ask us, what is all this stuff out here? And my response is this: these are customer machines awaiting service. These are not rainy day projects, parked machines, or anything else. Our team works very diligently on having scrap removed, and we're very proactive about throwing things away. If we have an abandoned unit that is not worthy of repair, it is disposed of and appropriately and responsibly. About once a month, we have all of our metal scrap cleaned, picked up, and disposed of. For the storage of non-running machines on the north side of the building, we try to be as diligent and mindful of organizing these machines to keep some organization. We do not want to put machines that do not run under their own power in the backyard where we'd have to physically push them to the shop. There are times when customers will bring us non-running machines that cannot be fixed right away. However, that doesn't mean that machine will just sit there. We do our best to get every machine looked at and evaluated to be fixed in a timely manner, regardless of the condition of the machine. Also, to be very clear, I will work with the Planning Commission and work to find a workable solution for all. Our goal is to continue to build our business and use this entire property to its full potential. With advice, we will commit to define parking spaces, storage, and we'll put up any barriers that are approved and required on a timely basis.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stillman. Does anyone else wish to speak on this conditional use request? Is there further testimony on the conditional use request for the outdoor display? Is there any other comment about this conditional use request? In that case, we close the public hearing and we go to item number 11, discussion recommendation. Conditional use permit request by Corey and Cindy Stillman in Neighborhood Business District B2 for permanent outdoor sales and display at 968 Mulberry Street, parcel number 246-0713-1242077. Are there any Planning Commission members, do you have any, and staff, do you have any questions or comments regarding the request? Ms. Curler?
I do have a question for Mr. Evenson. I guess just could you comment on some of the issues that Mr. Shade raised? It sounds like there are concerns about, some of the visual impacts and some of the parking on the street. And I was looking at, some of the pictures you can find online, and it is on a corner. So I'm assuming that there's not screening required on either of the street yards. Is that right? Anyway, could you just comment a little bit further on compliance and some of the issues that he raised?
For sure. I mean, I guess as it stands right now, it's non-compliant because he doesn't have an outdoor sales and service conditional use. So in this B2, that's not permitted. So really anything outside technically wouldn't be allowed. And that's when it was brought to our attention, we started this process with the owner. But yeah, I mean, I've talked with Corey too. He realizes it's kind of a high traffic area. And the first time I approached him when I told him that we got to get this conditional use going. There was tractors and whatnot pushed all the way out towards the road, and we kind of had to identify that the property lines are there, and we got to push it back in and try to clean it up a little bit. But as he just stated, their business is growing, and I think they need to choose, kind of as my recommendations is choose where the outdoor sales and service is going to go, where the vehicles are going to go, and then maybe come up with a plan to screen the equipment and machines that aren't being serviced and during storage until they're being serviced.
But so that additional screening, that's not an ordinance requirement? That would be more of a good neighbor?
Correct. Or like, we're at the conditional use level. You guys can put conditions on it.
So we could add something. Okay. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is there a time period for the conditional use? Is there?
You can definitely set that time frame. If you're saying, yes, we would require something and we're going to give it X amount of time to be compliant with the conditional use, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So you can place reasonable and measurable conditions on a conditional use. So that's the standard.
All right, well, Plan Commissioners, we do have, now, in the past, we would have a motion that would go on to the City Council, but we do have it in different format. It is achieving the same thing. where this is is in the form of a city council resolution 2461. And what we would be doing, the Plan Commission would be making a recommendation for or against this resolution, or we would be making a recommendation. You can also make a recommendation for it with conditions that you may want. But you make a recommendation concerning this prepared resolution. This prepared resolution is a conditional use permit, declaration and findings, Grace Holdings for Grace Small Engine Repair, Corey and Cindy Stillman, conditional use permit for outdoor display and sales, 968 Mulberry Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel number 2460713, 1242077. What the resolution sets forth are the city's zoning authority under Wisconsin state statutes, the city's requirements, calling out them for conditional uses, sets forth the conditional use requested by the Stillmans for outdoor sales and display at 968 Mulberry Street, the review by city staff, tonight's public hearing and Plan Commission review. This resolution provides for city council approval of the conditional use request subject to, 1, the terms, conditions, and requirements provided in the staff memo, 2, compliance with applicable requirements in the municipal code and zoning code, 3, compliance with all applicable state laws and regulations, administrative code, and local ordinances. The prepared resolution for city council makes these findings, which if you pass this, you would be, in essence, finding them yourselves. A, the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. B, the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity or substantially diminish and impair property values. C, the conditional use maintains the desired consistency of land uses and will not cause undue impact to adjacent properties. D, the conditional use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property. E, the conditional use does not require additional public infrastructure, it is already sufficient. F, ingress and egress will be so designed as to minimize traffic congestion. G, the conditional use shall conform to the applicable regulations of the zoning district. H, the conditional use is in harmony with the purposes, goals, objectives, policies, and standards of the City of Lake Mills Comprehensive Plan. I, potential public benefits of the conditional use outweigh any and all potential adverse impacts. So, and for the staff recommendations, the staff recommends a review at 2 years, standards for outdoor sales outlined in the code to be followed. Any additional requirements, conditions that may be required by the city engineer, the fire department, and our public works, and pavement markings to determine outdoor displays and required parking. So that is what is consisting of the prepared resolution 2461. And the Plan Commission would be recommending in favor or against this prepared resolution. So, is there any further discussion on this, on what we have before us?
Will there be further discussion after the motion, as usual?
We can, yes. All right. Well, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the request for the city council to approve the request as printed.
All right. Is there a second?
Mr. Coots will second.
All right, Mr. Holman moved and Mr. Coots seconded to recommend approval of City Council Resolution 2461.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify some of the parameters in which the Plan Commission is acting within. So as I stated, you can place reasonable and measurable conditions on the property as a condition of granting the conditional use permit. However, under state law, if the applicant agrees to the conditions that you place upon them, the city is obligated to approve the conditional use. So unless the conditions are rejected by the applicant and refuses to entertain them, state law prohibits you from denying a conditional use that's listed under your land uses as a conditional use.
Yes, that is correct. All right. Dr. Mason?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Very well.
Now we having further discussion?
We are. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this really hits home to me. As long as I've been on the Plan Commission, it's much better to discuss this in public forum. So I appreciate the people who spoke on both sides of that. Here's my opinion of this whole scenario. When you have a successful business, it's kind of part of the short-term mess is a cost of doing a successful business. So even I drove by there and I saw this extremely large pile of pallets, and it's because they're making sales, so they're getting new equipment and they're depalletizing them, and that's just what happens when you have a successful business. To the gentleman that spoke with the rental properties, I really like to stick up for people's personal property rights. So in hearing your comments, what I have to say about that is we have specific zoning districts that really allow this to be created. So if this were the case with a booming business in a residential area, that's why we have like R3 zoning, and we have these self-made buffer zones, so to speak. I truly think that, we do need to put some conditions on, possibly to the area where the repair stuff is, because it just has a tendency not to have the charm of brand new equipment. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So, some people really get a kick out of seeing a whole line of Toro lawnmowers. Others, may not like to see stuff in repair, piles of pallets. So I think those are some of the things we can, address with possibly screening the repair area and making sure that refuse is picked up, such as pallets, because even I noticed that. But anyway, I really appreciate everybody making these comments, even the other gal there. This is how this should be handled.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Holman. Are there any further comments regarding this resolution?
So, Mr. Holman, do you have a proposal then for an additional condition for
Well-
further screening, or?
Well, I think, I don't know what to suggest as screening, but I think there should be some screening, where the repair, maybe it's a fence, I don't know. But I really think that in order for the business to succeed, you're going to have to, allow some outdoor visibility. So, I think it's proper, and it's just the location of it. It's high vis area. I'm glad it's thriving. It was a business that was not.
Yes.
Ms. Lazaris, if I may, the code is very clear on outdoor sales and outdoor storage of materials. As Mr. Evenson alluded to, with a site plan, it does have to demarcate where those sales and storage areas are going to occur. The code's clear on where it can occur on properties, how much storage or sales can occur. So there does need to be a plan associated with it. And again, screening can be handled in a multitude of ways. the BSO, Building Site and Operation Plan process that's handled more at staff level, can work through the code issues on what the screening requirements are to address issues. There are some, I'll say, details associated with the owner's operations that need to be spelled out, and that may include more frequent collection of refuse, et cetera. But I think one of the issues we get here is, yes, it's an existing site. Everybody inherited. It's kind of a legacy commercial area. There just needs to be a little bit more order on the site. And I think once we can work with the owner on kind of figuring out what works for his operations and what's meeting the ordinances as written, I feel like we can get there. I don't want to say it's a negotiation. It's really like the owner telling us what's going to work, right? We do need to make ingress, egress a little clearer, because this is a legacy site, so it has kind of wide open access to the paved surfaces. There is plenty of land area for additional storage in the back, but there are requirements on how that storage has to occur. The amount of sales areas just needs to be defined where they can be. Typically, it's near the building, not out by the street edge. This becomes an issue here because you have private pavement that goes out to the street edge, which is in the public right-of-way, which is an area we do not allow parking or storage or sales of materials. So again, the codes and ordinances do kind of address these things. I think if we can just get some cleanup on the site and some greater organization, I think there'll be a little less heartburn with the operations. And I think much of it can be handled at staff level based on the ordinance that's been presented to you, because it references those codes and ordinances.
Mr. Kohler.
I guess I'd just like to add some comments. I agree, Mr. Holman, with everything that you said. I appreciate the neighbors' concerns and maybe feeling like this is sort of the entrance to their residential neighborhood. I see the Stillmans from Mr. Stillman's statements tonight and the information that he provided in the application. The business is growing. He's sincerely wanting to make sure that he's in compliance with our codes and is working hard to do that. And I have every confidence that he will do that. I think if we were to try to craft some specific requirements on additional screening, it could affect his business operations in ways that we don't maybe understand or don't intend. So I don't think that's a good, direction for us to go. It is it's on a corner, and so it has two street sides, right? Two street yards, where many businesses would maybe just only have the one. It would be kind of more straightforward. So I agree with your comments, Dustin, that I think that if we approve this with the conditions that the staff have recommended, then the staff can work out the details with the Stillmans and get just a more orderly business operation as they're growing.
I 100% agree with you that with Dustin's comment, just allow the staff to handle this based on ordinance. I just see there's no reason for us to contemplate a bunch of things that we don't even know will work, where staff can certainly take care of that.
And the staff has already envisioned this very well, and we know that there will also be a site plan associated with this as a result of any approval that may occur. Yes, Dr. Mason.
So the city's going to start working with them right away. Is there an end date in mind, or Steve, did you have an end date on that?
No, I just made a motion to approve the recommendation to approve it based on what was printed.
So what's a reasonable end date?
End date, I think how we would take it is, well, if the Plan Commission recommends approval of the conditional use, what we'll do is we'll meet with the property owner, come up with the detailed site plan, and hold off on bringing it to the city council for formal approval until we can bring that along as an exhibit. Yeah. And so then when the city council ultimately provides final approval, it'll be a full packet, a full approval with the administrative level review for reference to the city council to see how it will actually operate. So there might be a couple city council meetings until final approval, but if the Plan Commission is recommending approval, we'll meet with the property owners, hammer out that plan, and then bring it to the city council for final approval.
Okay.
And Pam? 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 I just have a comment. Would that, at city council level, will there be another public hearing?
No, sir.
Oh.
Public hearing occurs at the plan commission
Okay.
under the prescribed process.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
The city council can choose to hold public hearings if it so does, but it's not required in the approval process.
And we do have public comment at every meeting, so certainly people could comment during that part of the council meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any further comment concerning this resolution? We have a motion and a second.
That's
We'll
closed.
recognize Mr. Stillman,
Closed.
if he wants to.
I can, but you have to come to the podium. Yeah.
I just want to state very, very clearly, whatever we need to do, we're going to do. We're going to, be partners and all this type of thing. And also, I want to really be clear too. I've never owned a commercial building before this. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can fix lawnmowers and I can sell lawnmowers. Some of this stuff is a little over my head, to be honest. But, Troy's been wonderful to work with. And, man, I want to be a good neighbor to you guys too. I mean, I fixed Neil's lawnmower too. I mean, I appreciate his concern, and I want to be a good neighbor. I just don't know what to do with all my stuff sometimes. I mean, that's really what it means. I mean, so I just really want to just, like I said, emphasize at this point, I'm going to do whatever I can do to, make everybody proud of this business in this town, because it's all of ours. It's not just ours, so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, we get it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stillman. All right. Is there any further comment on this? We do have a motion and a second to recommend in favor of City Council Resolution 2461. Yeah. Mrs. Hemstreet?
Sure, I'll make a motion.
We already have that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So just,
I'm only calling for any additional comments now, so, yeah. All right, are there any further comments? All right, in that case, then we'll proceed with roll call vote.
Dr. Mason,
Aye.
Mr. Homan,
Aye.
Mr. Coots,
Aye.
Ms. Lazaris,
Aye.
Ms. Curler,
Aye.
Ms. Heimstreet.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, very well. All right. In that case, thank you. In that case, we go on to item number 12. Concept review, Rock Creek Apartments, Phase 2, Tyranena Park Road and East Brewster Drive, parcel number 24607140734 Again, this is not a public hearing, and are you Mr. Mangan?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I remember
Robert
you,
Mangan.
yeah.
I'm the owner of Rock Creek Apartments.
All right.
And before Chris gives our presentation, I'd just like to mention a little bit of the history of the property. I bought the property in 1997, and that's when Vern Johnson was the manager of Lake Mills, and he was a pretty tough guy. And I went to him I told him that the land that I bought was perfect for multifamily apartments, and he said, well, first you'd have to have the land annexed, and we're never going to annex that land. And so I kept on going back and with the same results, and then all of a sudden we had like another manager, a temporary manager, Jim Heilman, and he basically was a protege of Vern Johnson. So finally, when I got Steve Wilkie, he was a little softer, but not real soft. So anyways, he said no as well, but all of a sudden the city needed to get an easement across I-94 through my land because there was a gentleman that was going to develop some residential on the north side of I-94. So I gave them the easement that they wanted, and then Steve Wilkie started helping me annex the land. And, I mean, it's been a real process. This has been 27 years that I've been working on this. I don't have another 27 years to finish out this last 15 acres. And, we're multifamily operators and we do a good job. We keep the place clean and we respond to the city, and I'd like to finish up the project, and and it's a perfect multifamily site because we don't have neighbors. On the north, we have I-94. On the east, we have the gun club. On the west, we have Rock Creek. And on the south, we have, the town of Atsalon. So, I mean, there's really, there's nobody to complain about, having more multifamily in the city. And basically, we have professional people that, as a matter of fact, Drake was a resident there for a while. We have professional people that, some work in Milwaukee, some work in Madison. We have very few children there, so you don't have to build more schools. It's a good opportunity for the city, and that's all I'm asking for is to, put up, and we're trying to build a buffer as well with, there's some residents that are in the town of Atsalon, and we're going to build a big berm, and we're going to build some duplexes that is like a step down, from the, high density multifamily. So anyways, I certainly would appreciate it if you give us a chance. And
All right, thank you, Mr. Mangan.
I've got a few extra exhibits. Am I allowed to pass those out, or is it too late? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Carr. I'm a civil engineer and vice president at the Sigma Group. We are a civil and environmental firm out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm glad to be here tonight and present the concept to the group. We started by meeting with Bob a few months ago and had a couple concepts. We looked at the overall site plan, as Bob said, the surrounding neighborhood, and really tried to find a fix of what could happen. As Bob talked about, and what I'm passing out right now is there really is a lot of different uses surrounding the parcel. You've got the gun club to the east, you've got the existing multifamily and the freeway to the north, you've got a park to the south. There is some single family areas mixed in, but there's also some multifamily duplexes on the other side of the road. So it is really a mixed area of zoning that's happening right there. When we originally looked at it, we gave a few scenarios to Bob, and then we actually came in and met with staff. Our original concept was really an expansion of what you saw in the north with all the 16-unit families, and had a lot more density than we're showing here. We met with the staff, and it was clear to them that they wanted a little step back from there. One of their concerns was the adjacent residents and trying to mix this into what's going on around. So that's what led us to the plan you see tonight. So what we've done is we've pushed a lot of the multifamily to the east and the north, which is very close to the existing multifamily right now. It's very similar to the same type of buildings, two-story walk-ups. People have their own garages, own entries that have become very popular these days. People want to have their own area. It's not a lot of shared corridors, and they can feel like they have their own entrances. The difference that we're bringing in today is we've also brought in a new type of development on here on the south side, which is side-by-side duplexes. So a different type of use, really to more match the density that's happening south. So these are very similar to things that are on the other side of the road, a side-by-side or a duplex, trying to get more residents, giving a different type of feel to the residents, but also a different option for residents that are looking for maybe a smaller feeling, or maybe
they're sick of mowing their lawn, or they want community space to be taken care of. So we thought it was a really good mix. The other thing we've added, we've really stepped back everything from the residents. As you can see, kind of on the southwest and the west, what we've done is it's about a 55-foot berm with trees on top of it. So we were going to come up and then add trees on that to really screen along the residents. If you go on there right now on the west side, there is significant trees already on the west side, so there's a good screening that happens there. And we're aware of the existing residential on the south, so what we did is we moved everything as far north and east as possible, and then add kind of the additional berming and the screening. Similar to the other project, we have a large open green space, so the density is not, this concept is about 120 units. So this isn't a very dense development, and it has a lot of good mixed uses. So really what we're here for tonight is to get some initial feedback. As Bob said, we'd like to continue with the development, bring more tax base. Right now, we're not asking for any additional funds. There's already some utilities that run through the parcel. There's a water main, so we're able to use a lot of that existing facilities. And we think it's a good mix to bring additional housing options to the city, but also to stay respective of the adjacent land uses. So I appreciate it, and we're here to answer any questions.
Can't do that.
Say if you, we cannot take public comment at this time unless we suspend the rules. And then if we suspend the rules and we do take comment at this time, then each one would also need to come to the podium and state and sign their name and address, which is fine, but we would just have to do it in that manner. So, sorry, could I get your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry, Christopher Carr, 1300 West Canal Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
And Mr. Carr, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Carr, do you have anything further to present?
No, we don't. We're just here to answer any questions and to get any feedback before we move ahead.
Okay, well, that's just fine.
It's the first time you've had a concept review in a while, so just
yeah.
a reminder that at concept reviews, no action is expected, listed, or noticed. So this is purely a time for the Plan Commission to provide feedback to the developer on their proposal. This is currently zoned for single-family residential in the comprehensive plan future land use map. It's noted as single-family as well. So depending on the commission's will, the commission has to approve amendments to the future land use map. That's a requirement. So for example, if a plan commission on any project does not amend the future land use map, that does not go forward to council. It takes both bodies to approve a future land use map change. So this is a response to what the proposal's been brought forward before you. You've seen a couple iterations, I think, of proposals for this site. So this is your chance to offer feedback, how you feel about this, whether it's something you'd like to see in this area, whether they're on the correct path, and just respond to what's been brought before you tonight.
Yeah, Ms. Carr.
I just have a question. Mr. Carr, are any of these, we have this concept plan there that you have, would any of those be owner occupied, or would those all be rentals?
I think currently Bob's plan is that they would all be rentals, but a different view. Again, it would feel like your own home, very similar to a condo side by side, but you'd be renting it. There is a big people that are looking for that type of use, and not everyone wants to buy. So,
thank you.
It'd all be rentals.
All rentals.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And how many rentals are you talking about? Or what do you,
All the units would be rentals. Currently, right now, the duplexes are about 22 in the 20 to 24 side by sides, and then 96 in the larger building. So a total of about 120 apartments, and about 20% of those would be the duplexes, the smaller buildings.
All right. Mr. Kohler.
And then I have a question for staff. In the initial review of this overall Rock Creek development, was that where the layout for multifamily to the north and single family to the south was originally approved? Was there some kind of an understanding about the phases? Could you maybe just explain a little bit more of the history?
In short, yes. I'll turn it over to Dustin. He was part of the team that evaluated this.
So when the original Rock Lake Luxury Apartments came in, it was anticipated that this area would all be single family. It's why it was zoned for single family. The utilities that are going through there was the requirement for loop utilities, and there was a preliminary layout, I'll say a concept level layout, that didn't go to plat because the owner, Mr. Mangan, did not want to move forward with any single-family development. And my recollection, because this went over a number of years that we were working on these projects, he wanted to complete all of the multifamily, which is what you see out there, before any single-family. It was a couple of reasons. One, single-family is not in his portfolio. He doesn't do single-family development. And the other, most notably, was he didn't want to have single-family residences out there while he was trying to complete his multifamily project to not deal with potential issues or complaints, right? He is correct that the reason the development that you see out there now is what it is with its density and layout is because it is on the interstate. It is next to the gun club site and the kind of waste site for yard waste, et cetera. But it was done as a planned development district. This was a part of that planned development district. And the expectation was for the multifamily that you now see out there, that there would be single family for the remainder. And that's what was approved by previous plan commission. I know Pam was on there and Steve was on there, but some others are new, and by the previous council. So the plan or approvals that are in place right now is this entire area would be single family. Mr. Mangan, over a number of years, has come before you with a couple of iterations to try to get more multifamily in this area. He did meet with, on a previous review, neighbors came out that were in the town and were concerned. I know Mr. Mangan, I think he was working with Mao and Associates at the time, which is now Vierbecker, who did have some meeting with neighbors and provided some feedback to the Plan Commission that potentially the transition from multifamily to single family could be evaluated if there was a housing product that provided the right transition to the single family. That, based on your review and input, that not all of the development would be multifamily, that it would transition down to the single family, but he could bring back other iterations. A previous iteration showed all large multifamily, like 14-unit buildings. And a subsequent one came back and it showed 14-unit buildings and then a single family, a cul-de-sac of actual single family backing up where you see the duplexes now. Now the new iteration is what you see in front of you. So again, there's no right to do this, as Mr. Daly pointed out. It would require a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezoning to the previously approved plan development district. And if there's details on that, turn to Attorney Drescher on that. But and that's in a nutshell the history we got here. But it had been anticipated to be single family. And I'll say the city is kind of held to that standard that it should be single family unless there's some compelling development plan that I guess incites you to change that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wolf.
I remember that exactly how Dustin described it. I know the neighbors were quite concerned. with the extensive amount of multifamily. I'm just looking at it from, I'm certainly not against the development. I think it should be ultimately developed, but just from a credibility standpoint, when all the single family along Highway V there, they didn't show opposition to the initial project because that's how it was laid out to them. I don't know. I just don't know, without some sort of single family buffer, if you're not gonna, somebody's gonna run into some opposition, because those people, those single family homeowners there, I worked for most of them, so they were concerned back then.
That's why if you look at the map that I found, if you look at that orange area that happens on the other side of the road from us, there's a little orange area. There is actually a multifamily district mixed into that single family with side-by-side duplexes. So they're literally right next to them. So the transition, we feel, is appropriate, as, you know, and you can, I don't have it there, but if you drive there, you do have the same type of density with the side-by-side duplexes, and that's why we proposed what it is. I think the feeling is very similar to a single family. This is generally all private roads, so from a Lake Mills having to take care of items, there really isn't. This is a pretty large tax base, with very little, I guess, infrastructure and future concerns. One of the things we talk to the community about is when it goes single family, there's a lot of infrastructure and future liability of roads and utilities that go along with that. That's one of the reasons why you have issues with housing prices these days. So this was really a way to address some of the changing needs of people and costs, and to get something back on and to see it developed. I can't speak for him, but single family, is not in the plan.
I have a question. I just can't see it, but is that that bluish area, is that a retention pond, or
Yep.
what is?
Yep.
Yeah. And then what about the green space there to that first homeowner on the right side of the map there?
Right here. Yeah, this is where the property starts. So there is a very big buffer right there between that one single.
Who owns that property?
I don't know if that's their property, but that's the edge of where our property is.
I see.
I mean, we are showing some additional screening along the south also. That road already exists. It's a gravel road. The people are getting to their street, to their home off that gravel driveway.
I mean, it does show some distance, but I'm just talking out loud. I just don't know what else to say, but
I think that's the change that you've seen from the last iteration, is the attempt at a less dense, less intensive use with the duplexes, with the separation. That is, I believe, Mr. Mangan's response to the Plan Commission looking for that cascading, higher density, cascading down to lower density as it goes to single family. This gets closer to that, but it does not have the owner occupied piece that got brought up. So this is an attempt at meeting that goal with a little different spin on it. So I guess that's kind of the feedback they're looking for. If the Plan Commission is saying, no, this is single family, the future land use says it's single family. That's what you're grappling with right now is, does this concept plan appease what the Plan Commission would like to see, what their vision for this area is for a land use?
Okay. All right.
It's kind of buffering. I mean, it's kind of buffering. It's giving them some space that they wouldn't have had if the buildings came right up to the property owners.
Yeah.
However.
On the screen now is the original approval from 2014.
Yes, that's original approval. And yes, that was the idea, was that, that the multifamily would be where it is now. And then as you go south, yes, it would be it'd end up at single family. There may be some mix of duplexes in there, but it wouldn't be, but there would not be any multifamily south of the green area. And, you know, we're looking at our comprehensive plan. This wouldn't be consistent with a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive calls for single family for that land. The zoning ordinance calls for R14 for that land. The comprehensive plan cautions against concentration of multifamily in one spot, which right now we have north of this. So coming south, we wouldn't be looking for more, in my view. Planning commissioners, of course, but in my view, and that there should be a greater dispersion of any multifamily throughout the community. But in my view, this is too much concentration in one area coming south. And I don't know if there are neighbors here, because there happened in the past. But I know that was a concern, was how dense the area was becoming. And we can see that this concept has the duplexes, yes, but that's beside the point. The point is there wasn't going to be any more multifamily development. And so I would as one member, I would not want to encourage you. I would not agree that this is a good idea.
I have a question, Pam. Do you think that the density with this proposal, with the lower density in this proposal than previous, would be closer to the same number of units if they were small lot, single family? Or not even close? Just because of the acreage, it's quite a bit of acreage. So I just mean if it ended up being R16 or R18 where you had close.
This is 120 some units on 15 acres on single family development. I know you're not going to get the same number of units.
I see.
Your quarter acre lots probably, if you're looking at true single family, is usually, that's kind of what we've seen for new construction in Lake Mills. Maybe there's some other opportunities to add in some.
So you'd only be at 2/3 or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it would all depend on the plat. It's kind of tough to speculate, but I think you're probably in the ballpark.
And maybe if I could add to that, I mean, unless we make some zoning changes along the whole missing middle idea of, allowing some more higher density, single family. But I agree with you, Ms. Lazaris. I think it's not consistent with the future land use map or with the PDD that was approved as part of this larger project to shift this away from single family. And we do need more, we do need more housing in Lake Mills, and we need all kinds of housing, and this one is one that, we were aware of when we adopted the updated comprehensive plan, and we, were very intentional about making sure that this was mapped for single family, so I'm not keen on really changing that at this point.
Any more reaction to the concept that has been presented?
I do agree that the duplexes basically are like the single family kind of a place that you're looking at. I live in this neighborhood, and yeah, it's very tough to tell what's a single family house versus what's a duplex. So the idea of an R16 or something like that seems like that might be a way to kind of bridge the gap and meet a missing middle.
Even if there could be a buffer of them and still not, I wouldn't be against some more multifamily, but not touching, I think there has to be and
you know, the idea about a multifamily, and they're just on the east side, there's no neighbors, and on the north side, there's already multifamily. So if you're looking for density, I'm not sure there's a better place to put it. But, you know, I think a single family, even if you think about a single family lots in this position, I'm not sure it's a great spot for that with what's going on the east and the north. So I think our idea is trying to find something that can meet, but for it to be a single family, I think that's a big challenge. But I think we're trying to meet the intent of the original things, and things do change. There are comp plan changes, there are rezoning, we understand that. But that would be my response is, you know, if you're looking for more housing options, there's probably not a better place where you can add some multifamily with.
So I guess for the benefit of the developer, for what they take away from this, does the plan commission want to entertain, or would it entertain something that has more of a cascading down? You know, it's tough to gauge where you're at, but it sounds like duplexes were a step in the right direction. There may not be complete opposition to some multifamily, but you still want to see an owner-occupied component here. So you're looking for something that maybe could incorporate multifamily, but that you want an owner-occupied component of whatever proposal comes forward. I'm just trying to parse out, perhaps, if it's single family only and it's single family only, that's what it's zoned as currently, that's what your future land use map says. That's fully within the purview of this plan commission to stick to. That's what the previous approval was. This is just your opportunity to provide something to the developer of something you may be more amenable to if this isn't it.
I personally would support more multifamily if there was a buffer, and the reason being is the single family would know what they're getting themselves into. They would know that they're going to be up against multifamily, where now these people were assuming that it was going to stay single family, and that's where I have the issue. But if there was a proposal that showed a single family buffer to the multifamily, then I think it's fair to all. Just my opinion. Just my opinion.
There, from our standpoint, you know, with the residential, there's two big problems. One is all of our roads are private in there, and we maintain our own roads. And if we went to residential, we would have to build city specification roads, okay? And then, and which is expensive. I had a study done by Mao and Associates, and that, and a local realtor here. The local realtor here told me that on the low end, lots in Lake Mills were going for 30-some thousand, and the high end, they were like $80,000. Well, for me, put it in those city specification roads and developing single-family lots and blocks, it's going to cost me $80,000 per lot. Who's going to want to build next to multifamily? You know, so from my standpoint, it doesn't work. The only way I'm going to make money is if I grow corn.
So I have a comment. The original approval, when it was done, wasn't there a ratio between multifamily and single family?
There was not a specific ratio. Again, we work off of the densities allowed by the zoning code. It was a subtly different code at that time. So the multifamily that has been developed out there complied with the code, and again, it was a part of a planned development district. So there was originally a two-family component that would have been this at the end of Brewster Drive, and then it was going to transition into multifamily, which is kind of that blue area that you see there. And then as you were coming back around to the south, that was all single family. There was an amendment to that because there were, for some site constraint issues, et cetera, the duplexes just didn't work over there. And if you go out there, there was just some topography issues, some issues with the creek and such, so they need to be removed. And some of that land was taken to kind of make the multifamily area better, if you will. But the multifamily met the code requirements for density. And then the single family, which, as you can see, is kind of this kind of reddish area there, was based on the R1 district at that time, and that was the layout here that was proposed, that Mount Associates had laid out, saying this is what it could be should that happen. So those are generally quarter-acre lots, which is our R14 today.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's time. I don't, if anyone else had any other feedback or any of the other commissioners, no, but, okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi,
You too.
thank you. All right, our next item is item number 13, concept review, Wangard, the landing at Rock Lake Development, parcel number 246-0713-1112-008. And as I understand it, we have Mark Lake, the planner for Wangard, to give a presentation.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Dave Riedel. I work in development and acquisitions at Wangard Partners out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. With me today is Mark Lake. He's our Vice President of Entitlement and Planning. And a third resident of Lake Mills also happens to be with us. He is happens to be our Vice President of Construction, Bob Brandherm. My expertise in particular is in multifamily development. Wangard's been around developing real estate for the last 30 or so years. We operate multiple different commercial properties, office properties, retail, industrial, and have over 1,300 units in multifamily residential under our property management. What brings us here today is first, you guys have some of our concept here, is just to elicit some of your feedback on our designs. I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're doing, why we're looking in Lake Mills, what brought us here, and why the site presents a certain number of challenges that basically informed the concept that we're bringing forth to you today. So it really kind of started, our founder, Stu Wangard, is a member of Thrive in Jefferson County, EDC. We kept our ear to the ground on the housing supply, understanding that Jefferson County is strategically located in between two of the fastest growing counties in Wisconsin, that being Dane and Waukesha. So there's a good degree of, path of growth, and while those two have gotten attention, the housing supply hasn't quite.
Get closer to the microphone, because you're talking away from us, unless you're close to the microphone, we can't understand you.
Sorry, ma'am. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to get too loud. All right, is that better? All right. So like I was mentioning, our founder is a member of Thrive in Jefferson County, so we've been keeping a close eye on the housing supply here. We've noticed that while Waukesha and Dane have had significant new housing supply, both in for sale and for rent, Jefferson County in large part has been overlooked. So with that, we got on the ground, we toured Lake Mills, we were enamored with the city. We also toured some of the other rental areas, the rental properties in the area, that being Rock Creek and Summer Ridge, and noticed that those properties are, and I'm sure Mr. Mangan could attest, largely full.
I'm sorry, none of us can hear you. Speak louder. Is there something wrong with the mic system? We can't.
I can hear him.
All right, we can't hear any of you. You haven't heard, all of you up here. Oh, you can't hear us? We can't hear any of you. I mean, we just have this everything.
Well, we were online before we came to first, so we could hear well there, but in here it's no harder.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
All right, I'll try to work to enunciate. Are we okay? Yeah. I want to make sure, don't mean to be rude. I don't want to be presenting like I'm yelling at you guys, all right? So we're kind of talking about why we were looking here. We understand that Rock Lake and Summer Creek, in large part, the apartments in the community are significantly full. We wanted to ameliorate that issue because if the supply isn't there, then naturally operators are going to be in a position to continue to improve or increase their rental rates. And then just kind of as a side point, I took a look at Zillow today, trying to find housing in Lake Mills that might be for sale. And to my surprise, in the entire city, there were only 16 properties that were for sale. So that is an inhibitant for people to try to come in and find new housing places they want to work. And it also gives the seller a little bit more power to increase the price, further constraining some of their affordability requirements. So we're trying to help with that issue. So once we were here, we started looking more for a site. Drove around the entire town, got very familiar with it, came across Tyranena Park. There's a lot of great amenities that we've come to know about our renters that we think this site can cater to. That being close to a grocery store, being close to 94, the walkability and connectivity that we could try to program with Tyranena Park is something that we're trying to consider very seriously, and you'll see that in our concept plan as we move forward. The reason that this site hasn't been developed in the past, and there's a number of them, are some of the reasons that we're going to talk about tonight of why our site design looks the way it does. So the site challenges here are largely laid out. I think most of us are aware that there was a former landfill there. There's significant floodplain, wetlands, topography, access, utilities. If you can name the issue on a development site, the site in large part has it, and that's something that Wangard believes that we have the expertise and capacity to manage and bring this through to fruition. If we can go to the next slide, please. So these slides are meant to illustrate some of the topography challenges. So this creek on the rear of the site has grade issues in excess of 15 to 18 feet. So the way that we were trying to navigate that design was through the podiums, while also concurrently seeking to adhere closely with the covered parking ratio. So what the podium design allows us to do is build into the site grade while also providing a 1-to-1 parking ratio for those living in that podium building. So that was the rationale for that design. And then we also wanted to be cognizant of open space and preserving some of the trees in the area. There's a very heavily forest back there, so we're not trying to amend or change or remove any of the environmental conditions in the rear of the site. So you'll notice that our concept keeps it forward on County V as much as we can. If we can go to the next one. And then the dump site. So we've already had a number of investigative reports done by also our consultant Sigma, Chris, who spoke earlier today. We've completed a phase 1 environmental report and a phase 2 and did a further additional groundwater testing to ensure that when we develop, if we can develop, assuming our approvals through the DNR, that everything is safe and effective and mitigated for our future residents. Our site design layout, as you can kind of see in the middle here, is trying to shift buildings back away enough so that we're not moving into the wetlands, but also not forward enough so that we're covering the dump site impact area. So that's how we've kind of come up with the triangular design that you'll see in our concept plan. Next slide, please, or next slide. And this is really just where I'd like to open it up for questions. These are largely the considerations that we've made in informing this design. We understand that there's a need for new quality housing here in Lake Mills. We'd like to help out with that. We also want to be cognizant of the small town feel. We think that we've designed the site such that there's 2-story buildings fronting County Road V, so it's a simpler transition to the higher density buildings in the rear that are going to have less visibility from the road. And the last part of that 3-story design in the rear is that it would allow and lean into some of the attractive qualities here in Lake Mills, that being the lake. And the third part of this is, you'll notice that we've added a trail here in the rear of the site so that there's added public walkability for our residents to move fluidly in and out of our development here to downtown, across the street to the park. And with that, I think I'd like to open it up to any questions, comments, or concerns. And I think the last thing I didn't mention in the beginning of the presentation is that, yeah, we're open and we're eager to hear your feedback. And the next step that we'll be doing is reaching out to the neighbors to also hear from the residents for what they would like to see for the end design on this site, so that everyone feels heard. We capture those comments and make sure that everyone's on the same page here with the end delivery of this development. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
A couple things that were brought up earlier today. Other gentleman was talking about the others speaking before. He asked about the public utilities. What's the impact of our development? Our development is proposing to bring 165 units, 5 buildings. There is sanitary sewer in front of our building right now, and it runs to the lift station that's at the end of Rock Lake. Due to it being a pressurized sewer, we have to get gravity to the lift station and then pump it back to our property. Water is down towards the market, and it would have to be extended up to the site. So we do understand that. The buildings that we're proposing are very low intensity, if you will. It's a 23-unit building and a 48-unit building. The buildings have the podium buildings, which are the 2 longer ones on the right side of the screen. They have one-to-one parking. The 23-unit buildings along Highway B are more residentially scaled. They're like, you're driving down and you see a bunch of houses right next to each other. We have the design of the building such that everybody has their own individual entrance. It's not a common corridor building. Everybody has an individual entrance, and then 8 of the units will have their own individual garages. But they are it allows for us to develop our property, for the workforce. These are buildings that are the school teachers, the nurses, the firefighters, the policemen are living in. We have these buildings, the same type of buildings we're finishing up right now down in Mount Pleasant, down in Racine County along the freeway. We have a similar set of buildings like this called Lockland 2 over in Economowalk. We're working on a project not unlike this one with the 23-unit buildings, but they're actually larger up in Plymouth. We're going to propose the 26-unit buildings along Highway B, but working with the county Department of Public Works, we're kind of negotiated where that entrance is. And we wanted the entrance to be a little bit further south, but they're working on light site distances down to the south and to the north, because it is kind of on a top of a hill. They wanted to make sure the site distances for people 500 feet away could see the entrance that's between the southern 2 buildings along Highway B. And then to the north is Bade Lane. So we have to have access. Bade Lane actually cuts across the property that we're acquiring, and we were encouraged by the city to put in an access or our north entrance, and then tie them into our access point, so there was a good controlled, recognized intersection that the county would allow us to develop, and it would be properly constructed. So there are a number of things, and as Dave said, it shows in a trail that goes back to the grocery store through our wetlands, and we have the buildings to the back. We're building buildings up along Highway B that are more residentially scaled, and then we have a little bit more density. The density that we have, the master plan shows this property to be multifamily. We're recommending multifamily, and we're recommending rezoning it to R312, which would allow us up to about 15 units per acre. We're proposing less than 10. because we're trying to, we don't want to put too much in. We know we have 9 acres of open space behind the property, so we're trying to maximize it as best we can by also understanding where that landfill was and what we can do and what we can't do to the site. How we can and can't build stormwater ponds, how we can and can't build parking spaces. And since this is a PUD, I understand the last group project, they had a previous PUD and they were trying to work through that process. We're going to do the same thing here and establish a PUD, and we have a number of things that we're looking at as items that could possibly be adjusted and that are not necessarily defined in the R3-12 code. One of them is minimum requirement unit size of 800 square feet. We average 800 square feet. We have small ones, we have studios, 1s, 2s, and 3s in our properties. And like I said, they're firefighters and policemen and teachers and nurses and people that drive to work in Madison and people that drive to work in Milwaukee and Oconomowoc. They don't necessarily want 2,400 square foot units or 900 square foot units, and they're happy with their 1 bedroom, their bathroom, and their kitchen and a studio, and they're happy. Those are our customers, and we have 5 other projects with 1,384 individual tenants of ours in all over southeastern Wisconsin and Madison, and we're trying to do others up in Plymouth and Appleton. And that's what they are asking for. They're asking for studios and 1s and 2s and 3s. That's what we're providing for them. And then we average about 700 or 800 square feet in terms of the number of units, the square footage per unit. The next item that we're asking for relief on a little bit is parking. All of our parking code, the city's code says they need or would like, as part of code, 2 parking spaces per unit. I don't want to build asphalt if asphalt's not going to be used. Our parking ratios, and I sent it to Dustin and to Drake, show that we average about 1.5 bedrooms per unit, and we also average about 1.5 parking spaces per unit. And we don't need any more. If we do, it's empty, it's unused, and it's expensive to maintain. We have land where we can put snow. We have a slope, we have stormwater pond, we have green space, we have all that stuff. We don't need to put snow on vacant parking stalls. It's a waste of time. At $25,000 a piece, it's very expensive to maintain. The other one is a requirement for 1-to-1 parking per unit, underground parking or enclosed parking per unit. We're a little bit less than that. When if you look at our overall site, we're about 77%. The 2 buildings on the east side that we're proposing, the 248 units, yep, they're going to be covered with 1-to-1 parking. Actually, they'll have 50 in each building. The 3 that are along County B have 8 enclosed parking stalls. But that's really all our tenants want. If we build extra covered parking, it ends up being storage. It ends up not being used, and besides that, it's expensive. People will end up paying an extra $150 a month for a garage, and we don't want to put that extra burden on a firefighter, a teacher, or a nurse or something that doesn't really like to have it. They want to get into their car, they want to go to work, they don't necessarily want to pay the extra $150 a month for parking. So a couple items that we have, and I put them in my narrative about the things that we would like relief as we go through this process and create the PUD. Those are the things there. Is there another one? I don't know, but it's close. But yeah, if there's anything that you suggest, if you want to talk about a little bit more about the mix that we have or the size of the buildings, or anything else, we're here to answer questions. Thank you.
I thank you. My commissioners and staff, are there any comments and questions? Mr. Holman?
It was brought to my attention by one of the town board supervisors that Body Lane is not a town road. How do you plan to address the current property owners that use Body Road for their access?
Well, right now, if you look up in the north corner, and I don't, right now, Body Lane, that's what it's called, is right here. And it just comes in and hits County B. What we're proposing is that is our north entrance, and since we would have more traffic, we would be the main point of access, and then they would tie into our access point. I don't know if they need to be a road or it's a lane or it's private mainly, but they would be tied into our driveway. So we would have two driveways. One here, this is where the county said, put it here. It's basically 75 feet from the big tree that's there, and there's a power pole and a tree that's there. And then the other one, it's basically in the same spot as it is right now, but it would be defined and built to county standards.
But they would be protected and be able to use that as their...
Well, part of that is an easement agreement, and when we go through this process, we'll have a developer's agreement, and we'll finish all that up, and they will have an access and egress agreement that says that they're allowed to go across it. They will share in the cost of the maintenance, but they will be allowed access through our property.
Is there any way I can make a note on this?
Who is speaking?
Hi, my name is Mike Redmond. I actually live on the southern tip of County Road B.
No, we have to.
All right, there's someone online who wishes to make a comment. This is not a public hearing, it is a concept review. To hear comments concerning this concept, then we would suspend the rules and then you can speak, but if we do that, then I would like to have speakers not speak more than 3 minutes, since this is not a public hearing. Did anyone want to make a motion to suspend the rules?
Before we go to that, I wonder if we could have staff just give an overview. We do have a memo from Dustin that summarizes, there's multiple process steps for proposed development like this, and we're just at the concept plan tonight.
Yes.
So maybe you could give us a summary of that for the audience's benefit too.
Thank you, Ms. Curler. This site has been, as the applicants noted, historically used for a city or town dump site. There have been development proposals that have come forward over a number of years for the site. The issue is they generally get to a point where they start doing the environmental investigation and realize they don't want to contend with the risk associated with a previous dump site. And so they have kind of stalled out. This is over the last, I'll say 15 years. Someone's always come kind of knocking on this site. The long-range plan for this area does show it for multifamily, recognizing that the entire center of kind of the buildable area is encumbered by this former activity. So the process that this would be following is, again, a rezoning to our planned development district. You'll hear PUD, which is planned unit development. In our codes, we call it a planned development district, a PDD. But the first step of that is a concept review. And really at this level, there's certainly a number of issues that are being investigated by an applicant. But it really is to get some initial feedback on use, intensity, kind of themes on the property, development type, meaning the type of housing. It could be commercial as well or industrial, but in this case it's housing. So the mixture of housing types being proposed, the mixture of unit types being proposed here are things that we evaluate kind of at this level. Behind the scenes, they are working with, a developer would work with staff on the details associated with grading, stormwater management, utilities, water connections, sanitary connections, stormwater management, et cetera. This is kind of the first step for initial feedback of here's what we'd like to do, what are the immediate concerns or questions that, in this case, the Plan Commission have or the staff have on this. Certainly, there is a process here to get formal public feedback. We obviously encourage developers to work with the surrounding property owners on their proposals, so it's not the first time they see something. But at this level, really what we are looking for is just that feedback on does this merit further investigation, or is this a place where it stops? The next part, so it's a kind of a three-part process. The first is the concept plan with no formal action, really just kind of straw polling of a plan commission to give feedback to an applicant. The next part is what we call the general development plan. That is more detail, sharpening of the pencil of the concept plan, and to address concerns raised at a initial staff and plan commission level. A public hearing is held at that stage. Neighbors are formally noticed. It is posted in the newspaper, et cetera. That is the formal feedback. Again, more detail, not final engineering, want to make that clear, but more detail on mix of uses, mix of building types, mix of the unit types within a building that are being proposed, starts getting fleshed out a bit more. As the applicant talked about, at both of these steps, you need to talk about where are you looking for exception from the code. That's the flexibility of a planned development district, right? We have a lot of environmental constraints out here, things that we're obviously trying to preserve, and then areas that they just need to flat out avoid from previous activities. So they need some level of flexibility with the planned development district. The planned development district is intended to show we feel that we can work around some of these things. Most of what they're proposing complies with the standard requirements of the R312, setbacks, height, et cetera. As Mr. Lake identified, unit size and parking regulations are the real key issues that they're looking for some relief on. I'll get into a little more detail with that in a second. The last piece of this, if it gets blessed at the Plan Commission level and the council level with a general development plan, would then what we call the precise implementation plan. That is detailed engineering, detailed elevations, detailed topographic grading, et cetera. Your maybe potentially some offsite improvements related to the surrounding roadways. Again, I think the most recent one that we went through in this process was the proposed Holiday Inn. So again, kind of following that trajectory, kind of as it moves along the process, I'll say it's a little iterative. You get feedback, and they provide at each step how they've addressed concerns and issues. But at this level, it's just concept approval. So in the memo, which obviously is available online, I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. We do highlight some of the issues here. They do meet our density requirements for units per acre. They're way, way below what we allow. Again, it's a large site, 17 odd acres, and there's a lot of areas that just can't be built in. So they're really focusing the development in the areas that are truly buildable. The two notable areas that we talked about was unit size and then parking. So on the unit size issue, we haven't had any multifamily developers that have come in and proposed truly a variety of unit types. They have been predominantly 1 and 2 bedroom units. This is a different development plan where they are trying to capture a wider audience. So they do have some studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Rarely do we see 3 bedrooms because at that point people are really just looking at renting a home or buying a home. It's exciting to see someone bringing this forward, and this is an area where we sometimes rely on the developer to know their market. To say based on their experience, their track record, working in other communities and in this kind of, I'll say, geographic area, southeastern Wisconsin, that they know what their market needs are, and which is why they're bringing it forward. Asking for exceptions to unit sizes is not uncommon. We did this on the Bayberry. They had some smaller units as well. There's absolutely a need for a variety of unit types in the community. So instead of every unit meeting a minimum 800 square feet, you do sometimes rely on the developer to say that this is our market. There's only a small percentage of studios being proposed. And again, they're requesting an average unit size that meets our requirements. That is something that the Plan Commission definitely needs to give some feedback on. Is an average unit size for all of the development meeting our requirements appropriate? So does it meet a public need and warrant providing that level of exception? The other is parking. Yes, our parking code requires 2 stalls per unit, one of which has to be covered, and then a half a stall per unit for visitors. Concerns that we obviously have with parking is making sure that there is adequate parking on the site. And this can be a case where you can rely on the developer knowing their product and their, I'll say, constituency on what their parking needs are. We fully respect not wanting to overbuild parking. Our code is oriented that way. Again, the multifamily projects we've had recently have been a traditional suburban multifamily type, 2-story, with attached garages, et cetera. And it has not come up as an issue. No one has asked for any relief from that, and has developed under our standard R312 guidelines. Again, there isn't a silver bullet on parking. Concern that the staff always has with parking is ensuring that what happens if there isn't enough parking on site? Is there an opportunity to add parking should there be an issue? We don't want to see parking. Now, this county highway won't afford you that opportunity to park on the street, but that's always a concern, is that when someone is having an event, right, someone is having a graduation event or some congregating, that the visitor spaces or the available kind of undesignated spaces will be occupied, and then we run into a parking problem, right? We don't, on any development type, demand parking to meet the greatest need. I will use a school. We don't demand parking to meet graduation day, right? Because it will go unutilized much of the year. Walgreens is another example on parking. They always want more parking far beyond what the minimums are, because they always want to look empty, that you can just run in and grab something. So they want 20 or 30 more stalls than really necessary. And that's something we, kind of ratchet down on. So again, this is an area we should discuss the parking with the applicant and ask, again, they provided some understanding of their other projects. I think it's something that is worth evaluating, because not every unit is going to have 2 cars, right? Not everyone needs indoor parking. And, I don't want to say that's where the code kind of falls apart, but it doesn't apply to every potential project perfectly in every instance. This is a different housing product type that has been proposed at a multifamily level in Lake Mills at any point. It has verticality, right? It has a 3-story component. Most developers that do multifamily don't want to get into 3 stories because they don't want to deal with elevators and such. We have always encouraged verticality to save land and to work around constraints like this. It's an interesting concept here. The lands immediately to the east will never be built on. It is in a trust for conservation. It is bound by the interstate on the north, and on the west is a community park. Third story, you might have some nice views potentially of the lake from there. That might be nice. Again, I think those are the things that should be evaluated, is the unit types. It does meet our height requirements, so I want to make it clear, 3-story certainly meets our height requirements. But the combination of unit types, studios to 3 bedroom, and the parking issue is something that should be evaluated here. By and large, the rest of it does kind of meet our standard bulk requirements for development. We don't get into screening issues at this level. We talk about it, that it's going to be done. We talk about building orientation. We talk about site circulation, accessibility for life safety, right? And so you saw that they provided turning movements to make sure the fire trucks can get around. There's a little bit on topography, but not much. Those are come at kind of subsequent steps. So it's big picture, it's macro level at this point, but making sure that they're addressing concerns that you have. But it is an area we've planned for multifamily for many, many years.
The only thing I'd add on to that in piggybacking on what Dustin said is, unlike the last concept review you looked at, in which there'd have to be an amendment to the comp plan, during your comp plan development and approval, this parcel was designated for multifamily, so it will not require to go through a comp plan amendment, which means in this capacity, the Plan Commission is acting in a recommending role. There won't be a point where Plan Commission has final say. It will always be recommending a certain action to the City Council, which is different than the last one you did because of that comp plan amendment piece. So I just wanted to make that clear to each of you.
I just have one thing to add as far as history. There was a developer many years ago that did an engineering compaction test and found that most of the site is buildable. I'm quite sure, right? But, yeah.
Yeah, my understanding was that the previous proposal by the current landowner, it became a matter of not wanting to undergo the cost of the environmental remediation or capping or things of that nature. So they did have a proposal that came in some capacity to the city, but they did not move forward on it because they did not want to deal with the long-term monitoring that'll be required by the DNR and going through the DNR permitting process to essentially open up and cap the dump site.
I just said that because it was a fill site also, and they did compaction testing on an engineering level.
Could also take a moment to address some of Dustin's comments on the unit sizing and then also on the parking ratio. So first, right, there aren't any comparable studios or three-bedroom rental units in Lake Mills. We do have operating units across the way in Economowoc, and what we've come to find is that the studios cater to a younger demographic, age 20 to 25, that are seeking, quality new housing at an attainable rent level. So that's the kind of target demographic we're looking for in the studios. And then on three-bedroom units, again, we would be unique in Lake Mills with that unit type. And I reference back to those 16 homes that are currently listed on Zillow. So they had an average price of around $500,000. So if you kind of think about a 20% down payment and a basic mortgage at today's rates, that payment's in large part going to be over $3,000, $3,200 and then you have to add on maintenance and taxes. Our three-bedroom units will not be at that rate. And then the next part on parking. So we have right now over 1,300 units, around 1,200 of them are occupied, and of those units, we have 1,360 cars. So that would mean 1.15 cars per occupied unit, while we park to 1.5 per unit to allow for some of the visitors an additional kind of 2-car unit quality. So we believe that the ratios that we've provided at other communities, we haven't received any, kind of complaints or bad reviews based on the parking availability, and we believe that these are successful ratios.
All right, thank you. This is good information, and thank you, Mr. Wolf, and going over this concept and what you have prepared. Plan Commissioners, are there any other discussion that you have? And then also recall that there are some people who wanted to speak, so perhaps now would be a time to suspend the rules and allow, there was one person online and there may be some in the audience here, so now might be a good time to suspend the rules. Is there a motion to do so?
Are you making the motion?
No, I'm not. I'm asking if anyone wishes to. But if not, then this is
I
not.
wonder if we could have our Plan Commission discussion and ask questions too, because that might maybe help even address some of the audience questions as well.
Of course, yeah. Well, I guess.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that we said something about not commenting at the beginning, and now we're still waiting and waiting and waiting. Just assuming we're going to like hold our own public hearing at the end, I think that was inappropriate to do, and I don't want to make people wait any longer. I would make a motion to suspend the rules so we can have a public comment session on this, and as per normal rules, you're limiting it to 3 minutes per speaker.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved by Mr. Cruz and seconded by Ms. Curler to suspend the rules. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. If there's a person that has remained online, you can give your comment at this time. Is there still someone waiting online?
Yes, ma'am, I am here.
Aye. You can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mike Redmond. I live at W7830 County B, which is the middle property on the southern tip of the proposal. I've lived here since 2011, and I have walked that property numerous times. I guess one of my biggest concerns is the amount of fill that is in that property and settling. I know that the gentleman on the end had mentioned that there was compacting tests done. I'm just worried that these properties are, with as much as you can see in these properties, my concern is what are they going to do in the future for settlement and settling of the buildings and any possible anchoring that they might do, and what effect that would have on the landfill. I guess that would be my question.
All right. Could you provide your name and address for the record?
Yes, Mike Redmond, W7830 County Road B, which is like I said, it's the southern tip of the property.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there anyone in the audience here who wishes to make a comment? And if so, then in your case, then please come to the lectern and give your name and address, and also write your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Barb Gebhardt, and I live on Shorewood Hills Road and 6828. We've lived here since 1985, and I've watched that property. My real concern, and I've talked to probably 15, 20 neighbors in the past day since we found out about this, and everyone is very, very, very concerned about the traffic. I drive that almost every day of my life, and there's bikes. It's very, very hard if you all need to drive that coming into town from Shorewood Hills Road. There's a hill. It's very hard to see up that hill when you get to the bank. There's bikers, young kids all the time. And I know the Plan Commission and other commissions have talked about bike trails or paths on Shorewood Hills Road. I just can't see how this would help the bikers. They were talking about an acceleration and deceleration lane. There's no room for that. It's 2 lanes now. So I don't know how you could get cars accelerating or or not, well, whatever, going faster or slower onto B. People are supposed to only go 35, 45 miles an hour. They don't. And the other problem is when you were talking about the last group, the Rock Lake Apartments, one of the things that the guy said was the best thing about that was that they had no neighbors. There are neighbors all over around this site. And one other issue is the park across the street. That park is a public park. It's always crowded. And I think one of the great things is a lot of people would move here into those apartments to use the lake, and maybe their neighbors and friends and guests would use the parking at that park across the street. So those are the things that we have talked about. As I said, I've talked to probably 25, 30 people. So just concerns, and I guess I would leave you with hoping that you would do a traffic study, either Jefferson County or Lake Mills, because in 1 minute, a friend of mine counted 18 cars on Monday afternoon at 1:20 to 1:21, 18 cars went by that public park right across from the new apartments. So those are just things that I think we have to consider. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Yes, Bill, please come up to the lectern and provide your name and address.
My name is Jill DeLuna. I live at W7868 Highway, County B. I am the property, my maiden name is Beatty Lane. I live right there next to that. The nice lady before me addressed a lot of the problems I was coming here for. There is traffic, there's kids, there's people who are walking their dogs. There's very small children on bikes. There's families with wagons and children. It's all going right by there. I guess another one of my main concerns is that property cuts right directly in front of my house, which would totally block me. That's why they want to move the road over. We already have a problem with the road getting out in the winter. It's a hill. The garbage truck literally cannot turn around at the bottom of the road. He backs out. For him to back out and come around this corner and this corner is going to be kind of ridiculous. They want us to share in the maintaining of that road. Well, we already pay for the use of that road. We already have to pay to have it plowed, and anything else that needs to be done there, we've already been paying for that. And then they want us to share in their part of the maintenance. I don't understand that. It's just, I've talked to all my neighbors also. Nobody likes the idea. Nobody within that entire stretch of road likes the idea. My neighbor at the bottom of the hill just bought the property. She said, I bought it because of the woods, because of the area. There's deer in my front yard. I have pictures. There's bald eagles that fly over. They hunt in that field. There's tons and tons of other animals there. And all of this is going to get upset.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Burrows, 169 Westlake Park Place. Excuse me. I did not come here tonight to speak at all. In fact, when Misty asked me, I said, no, I don't plan to speak. However, as I sit here and listen to the concerns and whether or not I have opinions about whether we should have new buildings or not new buildings, I think we need to be forward-thinking. We need to not think that Lake Mills is not going to grow. It's going to grow. We are in charge of how it's going to grow. And right now, I think looking around, I see many of us who have our own homes, but I have grandchildren who have a different way of thinking than I have, certainly. And they don't want their own home right now. They feel very flexible. They like to have an apartment or a condo or a townhouse. And we need to be able to see what they will require in the future. Times do change. We have very few businesses in town right now, partly because we need housing. We need housing desperately all over Jefferson County. And I know the Economic Development Group from the county is looking towards getting getting some more businesses in here. There's very little land that is shovel-ready, ready for a company to say, yes, we're going to pull the trigger, we're going to do it. We have a group that wants to build, they're ready to do it. And I know we have to look at all of the intricacies that you are in charge of doing. You have been charged with that. I don't know the answer, but I do know that with Amazon and with Pleasant Prairie, and we are stuck in the middle of all of that, we are going to get people looking for housing. There's no doubt about it. And we need to stay ahead of that. I do think that Mr. Mangan, when he said 27 years, I didn't realize it had been quite that long, because I have been following it as long as Steve has. It's just, he's done a good job of what he has out there. I have friends who have lost their husbands and are living out there. They love it. They think it's just wonderful. He's done a good job of keeping it up. He's planted, I don't know how many trees as I go by. I think they're new. I don't know the answer, but I really hope that you will be looking at it from all angles and seeing how Lake Mills, if it's going to thrive, truly thrive, we may need to change our minds about some things. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this time?
Hi, my name is Jenny Laufer, and I live at 661 Owen Street. And thank you for allowing public comments. This is actually the reason we came tonight. So one question I'm just kind of wondering is, what's the general vacancy rate of current apartments? And if it's kind of a higher percentage, and I'm not sure, then why would we want to add more? And just, you know, affordability, when I see current prices of rents, my mortgage is usually less with taxes and insurance included. And I'm just thinking of, we have some businesses in town that are paying minimum wage. And if these apartments are coming in, and if they're too high out of reach for minimum wage workers, then where are they going to be living? And if it is actually affordable, then why over a landfill? There's already serious inequities everywhere against low-income people. So why then would Lake Mills want to support these type of inequities for lower income? Do we really know the long-term health impacts of people living on a former landfill? And it's just optics. There's already not enough available health care and already long waits for appointments. So it's also limited in town. And we also go out of town just for health care. And if you add in all these extra people and the traffic concerns that have already been mentioned, and I agree with the traffic study request that was already made, and even having these extra lanes if there's room, I don't think that alleviates the increased volume. And traffic from I-94 is already getting really backed up all the time. And I'm concerned about the parking if this gets moved forward. When you can consider holidays and parties, and when people move in and out, that increases demand. And when I visited people in apartments, I have trouble as a visitor trying to find parking. And then moving trucks, they tend to take up more than one space. People move in and out of apartments all the time. And the other communities that they mentioned that they've built in with less parking, do those communities have public transportation that Lake Mills does not have? Because not all tenants elsewhere may have a car if there's public transportation available to them. Lake Mills doesn't have that. I saw information about pedestrian and walking trails, but nothing about bicycle lanes and trails. And if this moved forward, I didn't see anything about a playground on site for any families. It's also something where I want to make sure you're aware that on the Facebook Lake Mills community page, there's a lot of discussion there. And if you're not reading those comments, I suggest that you do, and I hope that that's a part of the public comment considerations. One person claimed that some of this area being proposed is a privately owned land. I don't know the person, I don't know the situation. It's just something that they made a comment on. So just to request that that gets looked into. I think some people are looking for how it aligns with the housing type of survey for Lake Mills and overall planning that was done a few years ago or so. I also noticed that this said it's walk-ups and that some are ADA accessible. But there are times when otherwise healthy people get sick, break a bone, have surgery or other injury where a walk-up is not feasible, even for a short disabling issue. And then trying to move personal belongings and furniture is hard enough as it is. No elevator just makes it harder. And unreserved parking is nice, but then if you have someone who is having some issues, they might need at least temporary reserved parking. I'm not against apartments. I've lived in apartments most of my adult life, even most of my 20 years in Lake Mills. But apartments that may be out of reach for a lot of people expense-wise, and the placement of this particular property, I don't think it's a helpful way to support growth. And I'm not against growth, but I personally just don't think that this is the right way to go about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Hagelin. I live at 204 West Woodland Drive. Both of my concerns have already been addressed, but I want to add my voice to both of them. The first is traffic. This city missed a golden opportunity to put a roundabout where the new bank is right now a few years ago. So we're stuck with what we have at the intersection of Tyranena Road and County B. There's no way to fix it, short of putting in a stoplight, which would just hamper traffic even worse. So I am concerned about that. Per Barb's comment, a traffic study I think is very important. Secondly, and as important to me, Tyranena Park is a real gem for this city. We have a few parks. They're all spectacular, and it's one of the reasons people want to live here. Tyranena Park, as far as I know, my best guess has, Upper Tyranena has about 20 parking spaces, if that. This apartment complex doesn't have any side streets nearby. So when the gentleman is explaining that other complexes are using that formula and they have plenty of parking, that's not necessarily so here. There is no other parking except a parking lot right across the street at Tyranena. And if there's 20 parking spaces and they have 20 people, 20 guests that park over there, that means no one from Lake Mills gets to use that park that day. So I think it really deserves another look in terms of what we're asking for parking or what they're asking for in terms of working around the parking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. Nikki, 207 Crestview Lane. I just have a question after hearing the first gentleman speak about the Rock Creek and then this property here. What is the name of the first gentleman? Rock Creek. I'll just say Rock Creek. He had that where the housing units were set back nicely, and he was very attentive to that and making that. Looking at this particular property, it seems to be right up against the road, so there doesn't seem to be any setback for that. It just seems interesting how the two properties come up tonight and they have some similarities and some differences. That's something that I thought was really interesting because it is just a highway. And like the person just explained, that there are no side streets, so this road is it. Also, the gentleman had said that of the 9 acres that is their property, the density is quite low. But if they're only focusing on that southern part of the property, it's really focused in that one. Is that because the back part simply isn't buildable? Then why are we counting that in the acreage of the property when we're talking about the density? We're looking at 169 units or 65 units. In that small space, they're not actually considering the 9 acres. You're actually looking at the 69 units, in 2 acres or whatever that would be. It seems that as the Plan Commission, I would think that you'd consider that as something as well. It is really interesting, though, that they're asking for fewer parking spots. That does seem to be the opposite of what they would need in that location. And also, I would be interested in hearing what this gentleman had said when he first was talking about his vision for Tyranena Park, wherever that looks like.
All right, thank you.
Hello. I am Aiden Shear. I also live at 661 Owen Street. I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time I've done anything like this. But otherwise, my concerns have been expressed by other people and also expressed with greater detail. But I also have concerns about the traffic and also the site of where they plan to build. And also something else, there's been apartments that have been built on Brickstone where they're close to the road and they were built on what used to be open grassland for a long time. And I'm pretty sure that those apartments are very expensive, and I'm not sure if they actually have people or are vacant. And the only place for those people to enter into those apartments is directly from the road, which could potentially impact traffic on that 40-mile-per-hour road. So I'm wondering if this could be a similar situation with a lot of traffic going through, and again, other people's concerns with traffic. I don't believe I have any more comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this concept? Are there any further comments on this? Does anyone else have anything they would like to say about this concept? All right. In that case, Plan Commissioners, what are your impressions? Because here, Wangard is here, and they would be interested in our impressions about this concept.
As far as relief for the parking stalls and the unit size, those are things that we have granted. They're very similar to other requests we've granted in the past. Dustin mentioned the Bayberry was probably the most recent one. I don't know what the exact magic numbers are, but I think that those are certainly areas that we can work something out in. I do understand, and I'm glad that we had the members of the community comment tonight that they did about I understand the 20 parking spaces in the park across the road, that's something we can't afford to get the formula wrong on the parking stalls.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what the magic number is, but I do think that those are reasonable requests that they're coming with, and that the town and the developer should be able to work together. The city and the developer should be able to work together on that.
Comments slash questions. Maybe a question on the utilities. And I wasn't 100% clear in your correspondence, but as you explained, there will need to be some upgrades to the sanitary sewer. The municipal water will need to be brought to the site. I think I read something about electrical maybe would need to be buried. So who would bear those costs of extending that infrastructure to the site?
So sanitary sewer needs to be, gravity sanitary sewer needs to be extended back to the lift station, which is to the north. Water comes from east of the new bank, and it would need to come up to the site. It's anticipated that it's certainly a project cost, but it takes care of others other than just us. So if anything, at a minimum, it needs to be a shared project cost with those that would tie into the project. So we're working with the city on what would be required, but as soon as all the prices and design and everything else comes through, our hope would be that it's a shared cost for sure.
Okay, thank you. And then just maybe to clarify, I think I did read the comments on Facebook earlier, and there was, one person had a question about wells, but this would not be served, drinking water would not come from wells, it would be the municipal water.
Correct.
Right.
The city has requested that as part of this, because I know that they have concerns that our water needs to get extended to the bank at a minimum already. And we would just extend it up to the top of the hill and get it to us. Whether anybody further northwest needs it, that's up to the city to decide how that is finished for sure.
So there are, just to build off of that, there are properties that are currently in the city that are not served by the city's water utility, that as a condition of when they were developed, it was required of them to agree that when water gets to them, they're required to tie in and pay for their portion of that extension. And so if there's some properties that aren't annexed, those aren't city jurisdiction, so they're not required to attach until an annexation did occur. But there are properties that have throughout time been permitted to continue using a well, but when city water became available, they're required to tie in, and then the cost is borne, that cost of extension is assessed to that property.
That they would share in that cost, and the new bank is one of those.
Correct.
Right.
The bank has an agreement with the city that when water is available to them, they will connect to our system, and they'll bear a portion of that cost.
Okay, thank you.
So she brought up a concern that I kind of had picked up on too. So how much of that, was it 9 acres, is actually buildable?
Well, no, the site is almost 18 acres.
Oh, it's 18 acres.
And then the landfill area is about 9 acres.
So is that what you're building on, the
Yep.
9 acres?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And we're developing 45% of the site.
okay.
And we're leaving the rest open as open space and wetlands and environmental corridor and the way it should be.
Sure.
And so we're densifying it, meeting city code, densifying it so that we get, and the city gets the best of both worlds.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
I had I guess a question slash comment about the trail that was shown on the diagram, and I mean, I think one of the things we try to do in our strategic plan and other plans we have to be very walkable, bikeable, so I appreciate the idea of a connection for the residents to get to the grocery store and some of the other commercial development to the east. I'm not sure that it's going to be feasible to connect it all the way through in the back because of that conservation property. So I guess one piece of feedback I would have is it would be nice if there were pedestrian, access or sidewalk, if you will, along the Highway B side that maybe ultimately then could connect along the road network to get over to the grocery store.
So, if I can jump in here. So in the memo, we talk about obviously pedestrian connectivity. It is something that we are acutely aware of on the planning side of things. Tyranena Park Road is urbanized, right, as it gets towards the intersection, right? If you're coming from the market to the intersection, right? It's urbanized, so installing sidewalk along that is a practical solution long-term for the city. It doesn't impact like specifically this developer. Certainly something that could be done. We have a challenge, and I will look at Public Works on this. The other roadway is still the county's roadway, and it isn't fully urbanized, so installing trails or sidewalks along a roadway that isn't urbanized is not a simple solution because you don't know final street grades, et cetera. But we did talk in the memo about let's look at, they have internal sidewalks, let's look at connections to the south. There are a couple of properties, and then you have the, there's one residential property south, if you will, that fronts onto Tyranena Road, south of the applicant's property. Then to the east of that, you have the conservation lands. Ideally, that's where you would connect through, right? You would have a small connection of, what's that? Non-paved. It could be unpaved, but I mean, again, a connection down to a public sidewalk. It is still something that we evaluate as we move into the next kind of parts of the process of what can and can't be done. We do have the issue of just kind of some existing conditions with the roadway. It may not best enable a pedestrian connection along that north-south section. It may have to go through the developer's property, and then we have to think of an alternative connection to the south and east.
Okay.
All right. And anything else that we should be sharing with the applicants before they go forward with their process?
I guess I would just agree with Greg that I think, the ideas of for the Plan Commission and the City Council to consider some variations on the unit size and the parking, I think are definitely worth discussing. I guess one thing I'm curious from the developer is, do you have some thoughts about, it's sort of like we provide flexibility and then the developer provides some maybe amenities or other public benefits that wouldn't normally come along. So have you thought about what those would be or how you view, that side of the equation? And if you don't have something tonight, that obviously that'll be a discussion point moving forward, but just wondering if you have some thoughts.
Well, that's a topic that they have now, and so they can think about that for the next step.
My last thought is, I guess maybe staff would have a sense there was a lot of community input about a traffic study, and would that be something that the city or perhaps the county, since it's a county road, would they be doing something along those lines? Would they be evaluating traffic impacts as a part of this project review?
So we've just begun as part of the process with the concept review, engaging with the county on access, potential roadway improvements, if any are necessary. I don't believe, my understanding is that the county ordinances don't require a traffic impact analysis, but we can continue that conversation with them. That is their jurisdiction, so they are the governing body over it. So that is where the authority lies as far as interaction with that roadway. The city has site plan approval, but as soon as you get to that point where you're interacting with the roadway, the county retains jurisdiction over it. So that's where you heard the developer talk about driveway locations where they're going. That's all in conjunction with county approval. So I will broach the subject with the county and ask if that's something that they believe is necessary and warranted. The city council could certainly undertake one under its own volition, and we would just request permission from the county to, engage in that manner on their roadway. But I will talk to the county highway department and see what requirements will be necessary from their perspective, and then we can coordinate with the developer on how we want to proceed there.
Great, thank you.
All right, very well. Is there anything else that we should be sharing with the applicants? All right. I not hear anything further, then I'm going to go to item number 14. Is there anything we should know about for future agendas?
Don't we have to still revisit some of those zoning issues that we didn't finish? We were doing some early work sessions, and then the speed of life happens and there's no time.
Yeah, we do. However, due to the agenda this evening,
Or we do it in the winter when there's a little less going on.
we didn't schedule a meeting at 6 o'clock to, pick up where we left off in our zoning issues, and we can consider that next time permitting.
Yeah,
So-
or maybe see what staff thinks with the busy workload of the summer. Maybe
Yeah.
push it off till the winter months when the schedule's lighter.
Yeah, the fall is actually probably our busiest time just because it's budget development. So
Right.
we'll do our best if the plan commission requests it, but if we could perhaps buy some time, that'd be appreciated.
Understood.
I would note that the city council did approve the fence ordinance changes and the, what was the other one? Swimming pool.
Yeah, swimming pool, the fence.
So the ones that we did work on previously did move forward and have been now adopted, so.
That's rewarding after the amount of work. Great, thanks.
All right, is there anything else about future agendas? In that case, we arrive at item number 15, adjournment. Does anyone have anything to say?
Yeah, Mason, move adjournment.
Oh.
Mr. Coots will second.
Very good. Well, Dr. Mason moved and Mr. Coos seconded for adjournment. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
When opposed, we are adjourned.